Hello and welcome to another episode of The Mark Medley Show, and this is your host, Mark Medley. Thank you so much. As always, I'm much appreciative of your applause and your feedback. As much as you love me is as much as I love you, so thank you so much. Well, again, this is another episode of The Mark Medley Show, and today's episode is titled Trade-Offs That I Would Not Make for All of the Money in the World. There are just some things that if someone asked me, if somebody presented me with the opportunity to trade, I would not for all the money in the world. And one of them I've actually probably addressed in a prior episode of the Mark Medley Show, and that is I would not trade my time from growing up. And I grew up in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. I was born in 1962. That's right, 1962. So therefore, I was a child in the 60s. I was a child in the 70s. And I came into being a teenager and in my early 20s in the 80s. And if I had the opportunity, if someone said, Mark, I'll give you all the money in the world if you would change your time for being a child, exchange it with a child who is growing up now here in 2023, I would say no. I would turn down, as much as I want to be a millionaire and a billionaire, I would turn that down if I had to trade my time from growing up and exchange it for a time with a child who is growing up in this time frame. And let me tell you why, because I'm sure some of you have probably said, well, why are you saying that? Or what do you mean by that? Because during that time when I grew up between 1962 and 1980 and beyond, we actually had fun. We actually had some social skills. Because as we came up in the 60s and the 70s, we actually went outside and were able to play with each other. We were able to play with our neighborhood kids. We were even able to walk around the neighborhood and not worrying about being kidnapped or being killed or being shot or molested. And I'm not saying those things never, ever happened during that time frame. But what I am saying is it was not headline news every day of it occurring. As a child, I was able to go out into the backyard and I was able to go out and play in the sand lot across the street. Matter of fact, the sand lot was filled with rocks and glass. We even named it Rocky Stadium. But we played football there, and you could not tell us that we were not whatever the latest pro football team was. And when we played baseball there, you couldn't tell us we weren't whatever the latest professional major league baseball team was. Oh, we became the Mets. We became the Yankees. We became the Dodgers. We became the Astros. We became the San Francisco Giants. In football, we became the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Dallas Cowboys and the Oakland Raiders, the Philadelphia Eagles and the Minnesota Vikings. We became those teams on that sand lot, and we played and we were socialized. We played that game, the games called Hot Peas and Butter. We played games called Tag. We played games called Red Light, Green Light. We played games like Mama May I. And those are just the games that we played running around the street. We won't even get into games that we played, such as board games, such as Monopoly and whatever, electronic football, Monday Night Football. That was way before Madden football that we play on the television screens and computer screens now. We got a chance to play with each other. But see, kids coming up today don't have that opportunity because many parents are fearful to allow their children out of their sight. And rightfully so. As a teenager, I can remember going out on dates, going to the movies where a movie ticket was maybe $3.50 or $5 for the ticket. and then you went in and you bought a bucket of popcorn for maybe another $2.50 or $5 or $6 or what have you. And then a soda, maybe the soda cost you $1, $1.25, $1.50 or what have you. But in any event, the date in and of itself was no more than maybe $25 or $30. And that covered the cost of two people in the movie. That same date in 2023, and I don't know how teenagers do it today, if they do it at all, is at least $100 to go to the movies, buy a tub of popcorn, and buy 2 large drinks. It comes close to $100. Now, I may be exaggerating a little bit, but not much, because when you total it up, that is about what it comes to. It's nearly $100 just to go to the movie. See, I can remember, I'm here in the northern New Jersey area, in the Newark area, in the Patterson area, in the Clifton and Bloomfield and Montclair and all that northern New Jersey area. So I can remember going out to clubs such as Zanzibar and Club 88 and the Peppermint Lounge and all these different bars and clubs during that time frame in the 70s and the 80s, being able to go there and just have a good time. You leave there at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and you come by White Castles and Passaic and then go home and get home about 4 o'clock in the morning. And no one worried about getting killed. No one worried about the possibility of not coming home, anything short of, God forbid, a car accident or something along those lines. But we weren't worrying about being in the club dancing and getting shot up. We wasn't worried about somebody coming through the doors, guns blazing. We weren't worrying about if we stepped on someone's toe while dancing, that they would turn around and pull out a pistol and take our life for just stepping on their toes. That was not a worry when I was a child, when I was a teen. And that's not to say that it didn't ever happen, because I know somebody listening out there is going to say, oh, yes, Mark, that did happen. It might have been a once in a while, a chip shot deal. But it was not an everyday occurrence like we have now, that every time you turn on the news, every time you pick up a newspaper, every time you go on a social media site, you're seeing someone getting senselessly killed, as we have absolutely no regard for life whatsoever in 2023. That's what I mean by I would not trade. If I had the opportunity to say, okay, you can go back to being 5 or 6 now, in exchange for the time when you were 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 or what have you back in the 60s and the 70s. If you think about it, the children that were supposed to start school when COVID hit, the children who would have been kindergartners or first graders during the time COVID hit, and we had that 2-year lag where they stayed home and we were virtual. We were on the computers, we were on the Chromebooks, we were on whatever we needed to be on. We could not socialize. Those children did not learn how to socialize. And then when they finally did come live to school, they were coming in as either a second grader or a third grader, not having been socialized, where normally socialization skills take place, which is like in kindergarten and first grade. Many of these children entered the school year after COVID in second or third grade, and they did not know how to socialize. They went from home to being plunked into a classroom after being home for 2 years, for the most part solo. Now they're going into a classroom where they're going to sit with 20 or 30 kids and expect to know how to do that. And teachers getting frustrated and principals getting frustrated because all they do is hit each other and call each other names. It's because they did not learn or did not have that opportunity to socialize. So if I had the opportunity, if they say, we're going to give you $1 million, we're going to give you all the tea in China for you to exchange your time for growing up with the children's time of today growing up, I would not take it. These children, I work with children every day, they don't even know how to have fun. For them, fun is hitting. For them, fun is name calling. For them, fun is sitting by themselves, looking on their cell phone at a video game, or looking at a video game, a handheld video game, so forth. That is considered fun. It does not take a lot of socialization skills to sit and play a video game by yourself. Our children's, and I know we've seen the meme about it, I know we have some fun about it, but our children's thumbs are stronger than their bodies, because their thumbs are so strong from working these various controllers on these various video games. Again, it does not take socialization to sit isolated with a video game. So that's one trade-off I would not make. I've said it to my students, and I will say that to anybody. I'll stand up and say that to anybody. I know it's all relative. However, I honestly would not trade my childhood for the childhood of children coming on. I have a grandnephew that I don't know what the world is going to be like for him. He is quick and smart as a whip. I hope maybe one day he will be a world changer. But I would not trade places with my grandnephew Jace for anybody's money in the world. I would not want to be a child born right now having to grow up in the world that we are living in. It is ridiculous that we have folks trying to ban books. That is counter-education, that you're going to ban books that tell the truth. It is ridiculous that you have politicians who are saying, we don't want you to mention that Rosa Parks was an African-American woman. If you don't mention that Rosa Parks is an African-American woman, there is no story. Hence, that's the whole plan. We don't want the story being told. So therefore, if you don't mention that Rosa Parks is an African-American woman, there is no story. So we don't want that story out there. See, this is ridiculous. This is what we're being faced with. This is what our children are being faced with. They're going in a time where politicians and leaders are trying to limit or trying to eliminate information that needs to be told to help folks understand that their group contributed to the greatness of society and to the world and to the country as well. You have folks literally trying to act as if other groups did not contribute to society. That only one group, that only a dominant group did everything, when that's just not the truth. You have politicians in powerful positions who are leading efforts to keep people ignorant. And it's by design. So I would not trade off right now. I am 6 decades old. I am 60. You heard me say in the top of the show that I was born in 1962. That means I am 60, and this is 2023. I will be 61, God willing, come August. And I would not trade, because I can honestly and truly sit here and record this podcast and be grateful and thankful for a wonderful childhood, for what a child should be able to do, to play. When you really think about it, we only have about 18 good years before we really an adult and stress really starts kicking in. Because that's another reason I wouldn't want to trade with these children today, because they are stressed out at such early and young ages. They should not be stressed between 1 and 20. Those years should be time for fun and learning and encouragement and growth and everything else, not being stressed out at such a young age. But the kids today, they are being stressed out at like 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. I literally have had 3rd and 4th graders in my office talking about suicide. So no, I would not want to trade my time of coming up, my time of being a child, my time of being a teenager with any of these children born during these time frames. Another trade-off I would not want to make are these various issues that all of us face. There is no way in the world we are going to get out of the world alive without having faced one issue or more or another. I would not, because I've had relationship issues in the midst of a relationship issue now. And I would not trade my relationship issue with somebody's health issue. I would not trade that for anybody's money in the world. If somebody said, you know what, we'll give you an opportunity to trade your current relationship issue with someone's current health issue, would you do it? No, I would not. I would not trade my current issue relationship-wise with anybody's health issue. Because as my youngest daughter could say, you know what, Dad, you can always get another honey. But I tell you what, when that health go, you may or may not get that back. You can have all the money in the world, but money does not buy health. You can be a zillionaire, and once your body starts going, or if you come up with a terminal illness or a terminal disease, all the money in the world will not reverse that. Now, it may bring you some comfort. It may bring you some things that maybe folks without money would not be able to have. But at the end of the day, that health is still going. So if I had the opportunity to trade, again, this is about trade-offs. If somebody said, you know, we'll give you all the money in the world, you could trade your relationship issue for somebody with a terminal health issue. Absolutely not. Would not take the offer. I would rather keep my relationship issue than I would the health issue. struggling with a health issue that you have no control over, can do nothing about. Because I agree with my youngest daughter. She's like 28 now, but I agree with her. Dad, you can always get another honey. I could not agree with her more. For that matter, you can always get more money. But once that health go, it's pretty much a wrap. My heart goes out to anyone who is struggling with health issues, because health issues brings on a whole lot of other issues in terms of having to go back and forth to doctors, having to have all these treatments, having to take all this medicine, having to spend all this money. There's a whole lot that goes along with having a health-related or health-related issues. So if somebody said, Mark, you want to trade your relationship issue for the health issue? No, I wouldn't. There are financial issues out there. There are relationship issues. There are health issues. There are job and career issues. All kinds of issues out there that if you live long enough, one or more of them is going to come upon you. There is no getting around there. At some point, every one of us is going to deal with some type of an issue. Again, whether it's relationship, somebody's heart going to be broken. Whether it's job, somebody's going to be fired or laid off. Whether it's health, somebody's going to get a bad report from a doctor. Somebody's going to go bankrupt. One way or the other, we all deal with issues. So to be honest with you, I'll deal with mine. I don't want to trade off. That's a trade-off I would not make. Growing up in this time as a child, going into teenagers, or being a teenager going into adult, I would not trade. I had an absolute blast. From 1962 to 1972, those 10 years, from 1972 to 1980, those 8 years, and then from 1980 on, wonderful years as well. Have I had my ups and downs? Yes, I have. I've had some ups and downs, but I tell you what, as the songwriter says, when all is said and done, my good days outweigh my bad days. I won't complain. Because when I really sit back and reflect, I've had way more good days than I've had bad days. I've had way more up days than I've had down days. So would I trade when it not for all the money in the world, not for all the tea in China, not for anything. I would not trade. You can agree or disagree. This happens to be my particular podcast. It happens to be my particular opinion. Happens to be based on my particular observations. Back in my time, we could have house parties. We could actually have friends and everybody come over to your house and have a party, everybody go home, nobody get hurt. Now we're in situations wherein you're trying to have a party in your own house, and someone who didn't get invited will come to the door and shoot everybody up in the party. That was unheard of when I was a child and a teenager. That you're having a party, a personal party in your own house, and someone who did not get invited to that is so-called offended that they're going to come in and kill up people that had nothing to do with them just because they didn't get invited to this party. Most recently in the South, we had a teenage kid ring the wrong doorbell. He went to the wrong house. He made a mistake that anybody could make. He happened to be African American. The person on the other side of the door was an 84-year-old Caucasian. Asked no questions, just shot through the door or through the window. Ridiculous. Unheard of whenever I was a child. You had a young lady up in the upper part of the country, New York or somewhere. Caucasian girl turned into the wrong driveway, 20 years old. She was turning around in the driveway and she got killed. Unheard of. So if anybody would ask me if I would trade my time of coming up as a youth with these, absolutely not. If anybody would ask me, would I trade my relationship issue for a health issue? Absolutely not. All right. This is one of those days, I felt very creative, very energetic today. It's a rainy Saturday where I am, and I've been full of energy all morning between, doing things musically, between doing some things on the computer and now recording this podcast. But I tell you what, you can catch me live on Saturday mornings on my radio show, because not only do I host a podcast, I host a radio show that's heard on the radio as well as web streamed around the world. On Saturday mornings from 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time to 9 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time, I am live on the air. You can catch me there by logging on to gobrave.org. That's GOBRAVE.org. gobrave.org. Also in northern New Jersey, it is on 88.7 FM radio. So it's web streamed around the world on gobrave.org, GOBRAVE.org. And it's also heard on the old school FM radio, 88.7 FM radio. But I tell you what, if you really want to get in touch with me, go to my website. That is the hub. That takes you to everything that I do, whether it is my musical CDs, the music that's playing in the background right now is original music written by and played by me. So whether it's my musical work, whether it's my blog, whether it's the podcast, whether it's the radio show, whether it's what I do in my day job as principal of a school, my YouTube channel, my social media sites, anything that you want to learn about me, you can go to my website, and that is the gate. That is the portal to anything that you want to know, or if you want to get in touch with me or to contact me. Again, that's my name, MarcAmedley.com. Go to markamedley.com. That gives you access. You can contact me there. There's a contact number in there. There's some other things, some various samples of guests who have been on the show worldwide, multi-famous, and then folks who are not known at all. Got a combination of all of it. Go to the website, markamedley.com. You can catch me live on Saturday mornings from 6 o'clock a.m. to 9 o'clock a.m. on gobrave.org and 88.7 FM. And as always, it has been an exciting time to share with you here on The Mark Medley Show.